Sinead Nelson, I know when Thurgood Marshall was running your legal shop at the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, he was accustomed to when he would gain some yardage and have some wins in this kind of arena. He was accustomed to the opposition finding a new way, finding some other way to block people from voting, always adjusting to whatever progress he was trying to make. And here we are this year with such a sharp and quick reaction to our last vote count that produced a Democratic president. And now it's aimed at a party which is different. It has a different quality and different dimensions to what Thurgood Marshall was fighting.
That's right. But it's, racism is a shapeshifter, and the attempt to monopolize a democracy and at this point really to eliminate this democracy is all part of the same source, which is to maintain a hegemonic power in this country that is centered on white supremacy. Thurgood Marshall knew this to his core. He lauded the work that we did in Brown versus Board of Education, but when asked about his most consequential case, he cited a case from the 1940s, Smith versus Allwright, which was a voting rights case out of Texas, because he knew that the fundamental right to vote was so integral to all the other rights that we fight for. And what we're seeing now is a subversion of all democratic operations in our society. 86 lawsuits were filed to challenge the 2020 elections, and none of them succeeded. So instead of continuing to fight this through fair court processes, you are seeing a single party, unfortunately, enact a rash of laws that subverts all of the processes in our democracy for fair contestation of elections, and is now installing election officials that will do a candidate or a party's bidding at their will. That will lead to anarchy. That is not democracy. That is totalitarianism, and that is something that we must fight with every inch of our being.
Ari, in your article for Mother Jones, you mentioned not just the possibility of what these Republican legislatures are trying to accomplish, but what might happen if we have a Republican Congress. How would that affect the voting outcome?
Well, what would happen is, first off, the gerrymandered state legislatures could decide that they are going to override the will of the voters, actually appoint their own electors as opposed to who the people voted for. That's what Trump wanted. Then it could go to Congress, and Congress could say, we don't have certified electors for the states for Joe Biden, so therefore we are going to appoint or confirm the electors of the gerrymandered legislatures, or we're just going to decide that we're not going to certify the election outcome. And that's the nightmare scenario here, is that the will of the people just becomes completely meaningless, that it's disregarded by gerrymandered legislatures and it's disregarded by the Stop the Steal advocates in the Republican Party at the congressional level. I think this is what this is all building towards, that elections are essentially rendered meaningless because where the Republican Party has power, they're just going to decide that if they don't like the election results, they're not going to abide by them. And that's really the biggest danger here. It's not that people won't be able to get around voter suppression. It's that the ultimate voter suppression, just deciding that people's votes don't matter at all.